We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a business, Mr. Beale.
Go on without me. Just go.
A good soldier never leaves a man behind.
Because I wouldn't give you 2 cents for all your fancy rules if behind them they didn't have a little bit of plain, ordinary, everyday kindness.
Life, finds a way.
I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to put to rest all that was not life, and not, when I came to die, discovered that I had not lived. Welcome to Silver Screen Biases. Every 2 weeks, we pick a movie off of IMDb's top 250 and dig into it. We're examining truth claims in critically acclaimed movies while also examining our own biases. I'm Nelson.
This is Jeff.
And this week,
Dead Poet Society.
This episode is brought to you by our community on Patreon. They make this show happen, and you can help. Links to our Patreon and merchandise are in the show notes. If you enjoy what we're doing, please like, comment, but especially share. It does a lot to help. You can also send us a text message by clicking the link below. Now, back to our show.
Hey.
Hey,
back.
Jeff.
Hey. The second to last episode, man.
Of the year.
Oh, okay. So you guys are going to continue.
You should check your emails.
Gotcha. Whew, man, I thought this was it. Man, it's so good to hear.
You didn't get the memo?
My mom's going to love this.
We're going to keep on in January?
Yeah, hey, and we have another guest here. I want to get right, bring Brandon back on. Second time, was Whiplash this year or was that last year?
No, it was like last year or maybe 2 years ago.
Okay, so This is the second time this year, but this is the third time you've been back. Welcome back to the show, Brandon.
Thank you.
Yes, glad to have you. We'll get into the reason why you're on this. We wanted you specifically.
We couldn't find anyone else.
No, that's not it. That's not it. But how you been? How's you getting ready for the holidays? What's life look like for you pre-Christmas?
Yeah, it's been good. It's having a kid in kindergarten and preschool has been busy. So we got like the Christmas programs coming up, and that's a wild thing. I mean, we're just, we made some Christmas chocolates the other night, and just trying to get ready for the next couple of weeks. I will say this, something really cool that's happening. My brother is doing we're doing an escape room at his house. So he built they built an addition this past year, my brother Corey.
He's gonna walk you in it.
And heck yeah. There's a tunnel. There's a tunnel that leads from his boys' room to the new basement, and so it's going to be a 3-stage escape room. And he has all of the skills to do all the different types of locking mechanisms and stuff. And I have the creativity to come up with the theme and the actual puzzles and the mystery of it. So we're doing it. It's going to be legit. That's
dope. Is it going to be is it going to be Christmas themed, or is it just happen to be around this time of the year?
It's actually going to be Mario themed this year, because that's the thing that all of the kids are. All the kids know Christmas, but wanted it to be something a little more with actually had a storyline to it this year. So yeah.
Are they saving Princess Peach?
They actually are. So it's going to have ties from Luigi's Mansion, Dr. Mario, Mario Kart, Mario Party, the movie, and what am I missing?
Luigi's Mansion,
Donkey Kong Country.
No, that was already there. No. I think that might be all. That might be it. But yeah,
Mario Sunshine, perhaps.
Saving Princess Peach.
That's awesome.
Oh, we could get a hose and start spraying in the middle of this.
Cover them with gunk.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate that. My wife and I, and then my sister and her husband, we've done this twice now, and we really enjoy it. At Target, and we've also found them at TJ Maxx. You can get these. Actually, let me show you.
Escape room boxes.
I'll still describe it for the listener here, but I'll show the people here on screen. You can get these boxes that are like murder mysteries.
Oh yeah.
I've seen those.
Let me see okay.
Unsolved case files.
Yeah, this one was a murder in space.
And
and it comes like I love the detail because it comes with pictures, it comes with investigative reports, it comes with clues and then dialogue and the one we just did it went all the way to you had to go to a website. You had to find her password to get into her profile on the website, and then you had to listen to a audio file that she uploaded to get it's so detailed. So we would just sit around. We would just sit around the table. I had a cork board out. We had thumbtacks in it, and we would all just rotate documents, and we'd all just try to figure it out, and we'd talk about it. And then I love it. And I haven't done as many escape rooms, but for me, I feel like if I need to do more escape rooms because I love that type of stuff. So that's so cool.
There's
if you want to test it out for us to make sure it flows, you're welcome.
There you go.
Yeah, I will do that. I would love.
There's a series of board games called Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, where you have to travel about in London and solve these crimes. And at the end of it, you check to see if you're right. And you get points based on whether or not you're right and how many locations you visited. And then it tells you how, and then you score based off how close to Sherlock Holmes' score was, right? And the first couple times was really frustrating because we solved it, but Sherlock, of course, solved it in 2 spots, and we solved it in 20.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until the third or fourth time we did it, and I was like, wait a second. We should be happy that we solved it. You're not going to beat Sherlock Holmes. It's Sherlock Holmes. But it gave me a bit of an idea of what it must feel like to be the Scotland Yard in the Sherlock Holmes stories.
Nelson, you recently watched Wake Up Dead Man, right?
Yeah. The third Knives Out, the third Benoit Blanc movie.
Yeah, have you seen these films, Brandon? Or Glass Onion, Knives Out, and okay, they're essentially they're like a Sherlock Holmes film. It's this detective.
Well, they're not
they're
so
murder
much
mysteries, but
they're not Sherlock Holmes. They're whodunits because Sherlock Holmes. So the big difference between a Sherlock Holmes and a whodunit is a whodunit mystery. Oftentimes, the detective is coming to town or locked in the mansion with them or whatever and trying to solve it in real time very quickly. Sherlock Holmes I'd put more in the camp of detective, private detective crime fiction, and I like detective novels and stories.
So it's the timing of when the detective shows up. That's the difference.
Yeah, whodunit is more
he's there
English
when it happens.
crime tradition, but Sherlock Holmes is a little bit different than that. But it's more like Agatha Christie than Sherlock Holmes. And I'm splitting hairs for the 5 people that care.
Yeah.
But I really like the Benoit Blanc movies. They're listed as Knives Out mysteries because the first one was Knives Out, really successful. The second one was Glass Onion. The director did not want it. Knives Out 2 is what the studio wanted to call it. He's like, no, because Knives Out has to do with the story itself, right? So then okay, we'll make it Glass Onion and Knives Out mystery. And he's like, fine. But it's really more Benoit Blanc mysteries.
They're really fun.
Yeah,
Brandon, you'd enjoy those.
Yeah, if you like Hercule Poirot or other Agatha Christie stuff,
I do like those types.
Murder on the Nile would be the same.
Or
Murder on the Orient Express. It's the exact same as those films.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah, Hercule Poirot is a great whodunit example. Sherlock Holmes, the big difference between a whodunit and Sherlock Holmes is that the reader can solve it if they're paying attention. With Sherlock Holmes, which I've read quite a bit of, you're not going to solve it, and
they're
you're not
keeping
supposed
stuff
to.
From you till the end. Yeah.
Well, it's not even that because because Sherlock Holmes is written from Dr. Watson's perspective, and he's an average guy like us, whereas Sherlock Holmes sees everything. Agatha Christie's novels, on the other hand, she gives you all the details you're going to need and doesn't waste a word, but you're not going to solve it. But if you reread it, you'll be like, oh, it was she teed it up from the first page kind of thing. So, yeah.
Well, today we're talking about a whodunit.
Did I watch the wrong movie? I called you to make sure I was watching the right movie.
Whose fault was it really?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Who's to blame for the death of the student?
Of Neil.
I mean, technically it was death by, unaliving themselves, but
I think in suicide, it's pretty conclusive who did it.
Right. But what was the motivator? Who was the motivator? I'm trying to make a tie into this, okay? Gosh. Anyways, before we get to the film,
You're to blame for the bad segue because you brought up Wake Up Dead Man.
Yeah, I know. No, wait, hold on. No, I'm not to blame. I'm having a good conversation. No, stop it.
So who killed Dr. James Wilson? That's who he plays in House.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
We thought he died in this movie, but he actually survives and goes on to become a doctor.
He went to med school and
as his father planned.
A flesh wound that was acquired. Yeah. We just see a hand. We never see a body. And that's always,
right.
In most movies, if you don't see a body, you can't assume full
we don't even
fatality.
We don't even know it was Neil's body.
Right. It could have been, maybe it was just a leftover decoration from Halloween and that was just a hand from.
He's faking his own suicide. He was a great actor. They said so.
Yeah. That's true. Regular old thespian. So there's Shakespeare characters that fake their own death, right? That's probably a thing.
Yeah. Juliet famously faked her death.
She did, but then she did it for real.
Yeah,
she did so good. She did.
She was so good at suicide, or was she so bad at it that she had to do it twice?
Anyways,
that's the thing.
Brian, I got two questions for you. One is a little less weighted, and then the second one is going to kind of precursor or lead us into the film that we're talking about. As a returning guest, our question for our returning guest, I'm going to continue to say returning guest redundantly, is what's something you've changed your mind about recently, or not recently, over your lifetime? What's something you've changed your mind about? Oh my gosh! Well, you get it. You know what I'm asking.
What's something you've changed your life about over the course of your mind?
I'm going to say Gravity.
Okay, go on.
As in the movie. No, I'm just playing. I've actually...
I was like, where were you before and where are you now on the idea of Gravity?
I was going to say Julia Roberts, but that's not who's in that.
I actually did I changed my mind about that movie while watching that movie because I didn't care for it much until the very end in the very dramatic, cinematic scene that it was, and then I loved it. So that's not what I was going to say, though.
Okay.
It's definitely not on the top 250 of IMDb.
It's not.
I'm going to say AI.
Okay.
And I would say that my mind changes on this probably multiple times a week.
All right.
But to most basically put it, I would say just the notion of using it in general for actual practical or work-related things. Mm-hmm. I was pretty opposed to it at first, just on principle, but I'm starting to see that there'd be some valuable things to utilize it for that I don't feel like would compromise inherent God-given creativity, or would pose ethical issues in my work or whatever it may be. Starting, depending on how you use it. I think that using it as an advanced search engine is, an area that I feel very comfortable with right now, because like Googling just kind of sucks anymore. Like you're stuck clicking on every single link and trying to figure it all out and trying to synthesize all the information. Whereas Chad will spit it out, or Copilot or whatever will spit it out, pretty cohesively. Or even summarizing things when I have a large chunk of data that I need to really get a summary on. I'm not necessarily doing anything creatively with it. I'm just trying to understand it a little bit better, put it in there. It'll spit something out for me that's helpful. So I do still always think there's a cost with new technology and stuff. You always have to ask what's the trade-off. But for that specifically, I feel pretty good about that. So that's what's changed.
Yeah. There's a way that I've used it recently, which I feel like is cheating, but sometimes people will, in polite disagreements on the internet, not even online arguments, but they'll be like, well, watch this video, it really changed my mind. And so I'll just plug that into like a AI transcript and then take that over and pop it into ChatGPT and be like, give me the cliff notes. You already know my worldview. tell me what would stick out to me. And it'll do a pretty great job of it. Like, great, I'll just hit those things and keep moving.
Yep.
So, because I'm not going to sit through a 3-hour video that some dummy on the internet couldn't clarify why he found it convincing.
Brent,
For sure.
This is actually, I appreciate you saying this because me and segues, I'm trying to be better at them.
Never ridden a Segway.
The reason we asked you for this movie specifically was you have a perspective when it comes to youth and the psyche and just working with the younger generation and stuff. Some through traumatic issues and some through not. Just just working with youth in general, like the wide gambit of it and stuff. So, has AI been something that do you use it daily, or is it, do you see yourself using it more frequently than normal, or is it still just kind of every once in a while, or has it increased the amount that it applies to what you do for a living?
Yeah, I'd say slowly increased. But to be honest, like most, like even Google's using Gemini, and I really don't scroll much down further than that. And when it's basic things I'm asking about, I typically just take the AI summary. So technically, I probably use it, way more now because of that feature. But outside of that, like actually looking up chat or putting something into Copilot, which is what Microsoft uses. We use Microsoft. I would say just occasional still, just occasional. But I will say that my workplace is adopting it more for specific workflows and things that we're doing, which should help with some of the pain points we have.
With what you're allowed to share to the audience publicly, can you describe a little bit about what you do for a living, and then we'll use that to then start talking about this film?
Yeah. So as the clinical director of our residential center in Worcester, Ohio, Christian Children's Home of Ohio, I oversee the clinical therapeutic work being done with the kids who come into our care. These are kids who've experienced trauma and significant trauma that has caused behavioral issues and disruption from the community, from their homes, from their families, from foster homes, wherever it may be, and they need treatment. And so they come to us to receive treatment. And I am the one that oversees the clinical aspect of the treatment, the actual therapy that they're receiving, making sure that is, being done well, that they're receiving good services.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And I imagine that'll possibly come up with what we'll be discussing today. Maybe not. Maybe,
I do have a quick question about that because of my own biases.
Yeah. Here it comes.
Whenever I talk to somebody that's in an industry I'm unfamiliar with, I always like to ask, in what ways do you find in your industry the government helps or hinders your work?
Yeah. I'd say they help by giving funding for us to be able to care for the kids. I mean, a lot of our funding comes through counties that are kids that are in custody of the county, and even outside of that, kids that are privately placed with us by their parents typically have funding through an organization called Ohio Rise, and so I'd say that's a way that they help. The way that they hinder, there's a lot of standards we have to abide by, and I'm not saying that these standards are bad, but some of them can just be so incredibly taxing and so difficult to abide by that it really, it really just makes it very, very hard to find people that can be good at everything that you have to be good at in order to meet like all these just hundreds of standards. I think we found, awesome people that we have, but like it can be tough to do that. And also just sometimes, the government will try to impose certain standards, such as like, one thing recently is like a flat rate for all residentials across the board of what they would be permitted to charge in the state of Ohio, which would probably end up hurting us because honestly, like I believe we're really, really good. I believe we're top notch at what we do. And I believe we wouldn't be getting anywhere near the amount if that state average or whatever would come through, I think we definitely get the short end of the stick with that. So things like that, where they're trying to help make sure that people aren't price gouging, also then kind of screws us over in a sense. So.
Because of the nature of lawmaking, a lot of the people writing the laws don't have experience in the industries that they're writing laws about. Do you see that in the regulations that that you have to submit to, that this doesn't even make sense given what we do?
Yes and no. There's times where they'll roll something out. You're like, you know what? I get it. I get the purpose behind that. That makes sense. But the execution of it is tough. And it's poor. And that's the hard part. So yes,
sure. No. Okay, cool. I appreciate you indulging me on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. I appreciate you indulging him on that as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about this morning, Dead Poets Society. This movie came out in 1989. It's 2 hours and 8 minutes long. It is rated PG, which sort of shocked me. We'll get into that a little bit.
Because of the boobas?
No, because those were pretty much animated. Like,
it was a photograph.
It was a photograph, but it was like that.
And it got a lot of time on screen.
What version were you watching?
I paused it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Don't do that. Okay, yeah, but more just, I guess I've never the act of suicide specifically. I didn't.
Yeah, it's a bit much
tough
for
topic
PG.
for PG. Yeah,
yeah.
The nudity didn't shock me.
What year was it again?
Film 89.
So PG-13 existed by this point.
The year of my birth.
Okay,
so you guys don't forget. All right. So this was directed by
the date of your birth is more important than the year, but go on.
Oh yeah, should I mention that? This was directed by Peter Weir. Other films he's done is Master and Commander, The Truman Show, which is on the top 250, Picnic at Hanging Rock, and Gallipoli. So we'll be seeing another film by him, at least one more, The Truman Show, which I'm very much looking forward to that film. In 1989, we've covered a couple films that have come out that year, Die Hard and The Naked Gun. And this is our first 89 film. And then the year following was Goodfellas and Godfather 3. Yeah, honestly, I think of those movies mentioned, this is probably the highest one ranked for me of the 5. So, Nelson, was this story based on a pre-existing story? Was it a book, a short story, a novella, a poem,
an album? I got a couple paragraphs to read this time. So the original script was written by Tom Schulman based on his experiences at the Montgomery Bell Academy in Nashville, Tennessee, particularly with his inspirational teacher, Samuel Pickering. So this movie, Robin Williams' character is based off of Samuel Pickering, who is or was a teacher. He's still alive, but no longer teaching. So I went and read his Wikipedia entry. It's a pretty short one, but I want to read this from it here. Robin Williams' character very loosely is based on Pickering's eccentric style. Pickering has eschewed publicity raised by the film and has since regarded the unorthodoxy of his classroom behavior as more goalless than that depicted in Dead Poets Society. Instead, Pickering has commented that I did such things not so much to awaken students as to entertain myself. And then later in this write-up, it says, I tie all kinds of things together because I like to drift. That's the way life is. Some people don't like it. Scott Sanders talked about all the tools he could use in the books. So I wrote an essay called Toolless because I can't use any tools. So I wrote about that, and I proved that the people who couldn't use tools were more flexible. People who use tools thought that things could be made and fashioned to last. People who don't use tools knew that nothing lasts, so they were not zealots of any kind. Scott Sanders thought I was a complete savage and a fascist at that. I think it's interesting that, assuming Scott Sanders did in fact use the word fascist to describe Pickering for not using tools, I think that that's even outside of what people typically misunderstand fascism to be, right? Fascism being a specific economic model, and people will then misunderstand that to be, rigid obedience to guidelines. Not using tools is kind of very much outside of either of those. But yeah, so Samuel Pickering was the inspiration, but the script is entirely original.
Okay. And as you were saying that, I just looked up because part of some of the research I did for this film was this type of school in general.
Prep schools.
Prep school. Like, I've seen them depicted multiple times in different sorts of things, but I've never really put much thought into them. Montgomery Bell Academy still exists. It is still fully functional, and it seems like they're doing well. They've got a baseball team, so there's that.
Where I grew up in New Brunswick, there was a preparatory school in the area, a pretty popular one called Rothsay Netherwood School, and it looks like it still exists. But from memory, I knew one or two people that attended there because they had a requirement to accept a certain amount of people from the area. Like 99% of the students were Korean. I recently, maybe within the past year, I discovered. I was watching YouTube bunny trails and stuff, rabbit trails, whatever. And there's this school in Florida, I think it's called IMG, and it's for high schoolers and maybe even middle schoolers, but for most part, high schoolers. It's a sports academy, but like it's for youth. Like, but they live there. There's room and board. There's like, and it's just, that blows my mind. Like that type of thing. Like, I would never have thought of doing something like that when I was in high school. Like, not because it wasn't an option, but like, just like, it seemed like fantasy. Like, oh, like the idea of like, oh, I'm going to send you to a military school, or like I knew they existed, but like, just, like, I don't know, like I feel like those are designed for like the sports ones. Obviously, like those parents are just like, my kid's going to be in the NFL, so you're just going to do that, and you're going to eat, sleep, drink NFL with a little bit of academics. Like that's just a mind blowing concept. And then like, I think of other stuff like that. I'm like, maybe like presidents, or like big politicians and stuff. They're like, well, I was a president, so maybe you down the line will also be a president. So you're going to go to a prep school, then you're going to go to military school, and then you're going to go to Harvard and Yale. Like all these like just like it's a different trajectory, and it just I just have a hard time fathoming it. And it's the movie Holdovers. Yes,
that came out last year.
That was a lot of fun.
That was a great movie. And that movie, it's just a side note. It's some movies. I have an easier time kind of resonating with movies like if I can pinpoint historically like where I fit into the story sometimes. And so with the Holdovers specifically, the main character, he would have been a 1972 high school graduate in that movie. That was the year my dad graduated high school. So for me, I was like, okay, this is the setting of my dad's senior year, except my dad went to a public school. So just little small things like that. I was like, oh, it's interesting. Like, okay, this is just a generation ago. This is an adult ago, So, but this one obviously took place in the 50s. But I don't know. So, do you have any thoughts or stuff, Brain, about like prep schools or just military schools or anything like that when it comes to like, just thoughts in general about that? We've not talked about this before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes straight to the part of the messaging in the movie, but I don't think they're inherently bad. I do think that they're developmentally not the best idea. I think that generally kids are, people in general, we live in a society with male and female. Just kind of how it's designed, and those, I mean, all years are formative, for children, and even up through college age as well. But I think that in regards to the specific like developmental stage that teenagers are going through, with regards to individuation and just like understanding their role and stuff, I think that it is probably best that they are able to socialize with opposite genders during that time as well. And I think I mean, it's kind of funny, like the scene at the end, where he's like, God called, and he's like, they said we should have girls at Welton. Like, it kind of cracked me up, but at the same time, it was like, man, that there are multiple different kind of threads running throughout that movie that really were trying to communicate. Now, some of those boys were girl crazy, in some ways, obviously, especially the one, I can't remember his name.
I think that's a fairly typical thing at all boys schools. So like this style of education is very common in England. I don't know how common it is world over, but in England it's super common. And I've read a lot of authors who like talk about their childhoods, and like I wouldn't say depraved, right? But there's a lot of sexual repression in these schools because they don't see women. Like the only women they see might be like the lunch lady, right? And so like it does weird things to your sexuality when you're not exposed to women in your areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I cut you off there. You were saying?
No, you're good. I think that I agree with that statement. Just that it is there's always the balance between personal responsibility and accountability for the individual and the environmental factors that influence that individual's decisions. And I think that this is one of those examples of, environmental factors that the school imposed on them, both with regards to the standards for success and really, really excellency, but in some senses you could say perfection. And really just like almost trying to isolate everything but academic success, or isolate academic success as the primary thing. And when you do throw everything else out the window, it's not that academic success is bad, but when you don't allow for anything else, when you don't allow for play, for acting, for creativity, which was theme throughout it as well with regard to creativity and Robin Williams' character and stuff. And when you don't allow for socialization with the opposite gender, when you don't allow for fun, when you don't allow for exploration, you saw drinking, you saw girl craziness, you saw defiance to authority, all throughout that movie, all these behaviors that came up. Are those kids responsible for those? Yeah, absolutely. But could some of that been, maybe mitigated if they had had more opportunities for things, or if some of the adults would have listened to maybe some of their needs that they had? Yeah, probably.
On the creative side of things, I will say, like, the school was, with the student that was doing the theater, like, he obviously would have had to have had that approved by the school, because he would have been leaving campus to go to, like, so like the school.
That's why he forges the letter from his dad.
He forges the letter from his dad because his dad wouldn't sign it on his own.
Well, he forges the letter from his dad to the headmaster of the school.
Right. And then that's just because it's, but the school's all for it. The school's all for it. Both. The school supports students pursuing theater. Like they've got a paper.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, like in that specific note, I think like they were showing the parents as specifically in the arts side of things.
But the parents, the dad was also a figure of the somewhat strictness and rigidity of the school, because all throughout you have that theme going through the classroom with what's Robin Williams' character name again?
Keating. John Keating.
In his class, the argument that occurred between him and like the principal was to do kind of with creative thinking and kids having their own thought process, and really that principal and the dad had the same mindset. Was like, no, if your creativity leads you to something that's not this ultimate ideal supreme success, then it's a no. Whereas Keating was advocating, no, you need to follow some of that. So that's what I'm saying more so. Not that they didn't allow for those creative outlets, but that the curriculum and the way that they carried themselves was suppressing in that way. And I think that yeah.
Gotcha. Oh, no, I'm tracking with you.
Real quick, Jeff, while you were talking previously before your question, I was looking at at Ross St. Otherwood School's website, and their the video montage they have. I saw like the same black guy like 4 times, because it's important for colleges typically to show how diverse they are, especially in our current political climate, more so in Canada. Where this school is located, where I grew up, I saw maybe 3 black people the entire time I lived there, and I knew them all, right? Like
Was that one of them in the?
No,
in the
it wasn't.
Okay.
But I saw in a separate picture, I saw more black people in the one photo that I had seen the entire time I lived in the area, and it just struck me funny because of how much demographics is important for college advertising, and private schools operate largely like colleges. It just struck me funny, like, because this is the whitest place, one of the whitest places in the world. And then I want to tag on what you were saying there about the lack of social exposure to the opposite gender. One of the criticisms that you'll see about even public schools, you'll see this about almost every type of school, is that either they'll separate genders or they separate by age, right? And that's just not something you see in the real world, right? So, like, typically in any given classroom, whether it's private or public, you're going to see everybody within 1 year of each other in age. But that's not the workplace. That's not the world, right? And one of the things that I really appreciate about, because our homeschool co-op, is that any given classroom is about 3 to 4 years of kids. And then a lot of time spent together where it's like all of the kids together, right? So, and then just another weird thing is that something I've noticed is that public schooled kids or even private schooled kids are not as good at speaking to adults as homeschool kids. I don't know what causes that. I don't think it's anything that homeschool parents do intentionally that facilitates that. It's just this weird thing. Now, granted, people will say, and there's a lot of truth to it, that homeschool kids are often weird. And they are, right? There are certain social norms that they're not going to learn outside, unless they're in a public school. I think those social norms are largely overrated, and I'm okay with that. But there's other skills that are going to last them way beyond their 12 years in school that I think that they're picking up, that social skills that they're picking up that they're not going to pick up in school, and being able to speak to adults is certainly one of them. I was bad at speaking to adults when I got out of
And you
out of
think
public
that's
school.
a public school issue?
No, I think that's a school issue, right? Like public or private, I think it's a school issue.
And you think the home has no effect on how students talk to, because
I'm saying I don't know what causes the difference.
Okay.
But there is a difference.
I don't know if I would put that correlation specifically to external education outside of the home.
No, I don't know what it is about homeschooling that causes homeschool kids to be more comfortable speaking to adults, right? There's some undefined factor here that I don't think homeschooling on its own explains, right? But there is this thing among schooled kids, whether it's private or public, there's a lack of ability to communicate comfortably with adults.
I don't know if I've ever noticed that.
And put another way, homeschool kids are much more likely to talk to adults as peers. And some people think
I've ever experienced that.
Some people think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing.
Okay. But Nelson, what's your perspective? And Brandon, you have a say in this as well too, because we share the same school facility for your children and my potential child. The school I work at, and I don't want to name it because I don't want to give out information, but like the school I work at, and then they have a thing where in the elementary, they refer to their teachers by last name, Mr. and Mrs. last name. When they get to middle school, it's first name basis. What are both of your thoughts on that? Because, and again, specifically talking school, and we can correlate it to also like greeting people inside and outside of the church.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, maybe it's just this school specifically. I don't know if it's a Mennonite thing. I don't know if it's a Christian school thing. I don't know what reason the school I work for has this standard, but I find it weird, but I want to hear your guys' opinions. Like K through fourth, Mr. and Mrs. whatever, fifth through high school is the first name of the teacher. What's your thoughts?
You first.
Yeah, I mean, they explained it to us because we asked.
Did they? Okay, what'd they say?
Well, first off, going to the rival school, we always thought it was really bizarre, especially when one of our friends from that school would say names, and it sounded like they were talking about teachers, but they were using first names. They were like, "What are you guys talking about?"
Yeah.
And so we thought it was really bizarre. During the interview process, we asked about that, and they said that they really just want to emphasize relationship and emphasize not that there's no hierarchy or that everybody is equals in regards to respect or authority, but just normalize the kind of what we're talking about, just the ability to talk to adults, kind of like peer to peer, I guess, in a sense, and to try to normalize just relationship, that it's not that just because somebody is in authority and older than you, that doesn't mean that they should use their power over you. That rather they should share their power, use their power for you. And so really that's kind of what I interpreted as. And why does it start at 5th grade? They just kind of determined elementary students, it's important to establish that authority and that structure very early on, but they trusted as the kids are coming into middle school that they can handle that more so and understand that more and have more of a relation adult, talking social relationship with adults at that point.
Gotcha. Nelson, what's your thoughts?
So I have a mixture of concepts on this that I'll introduce before I give my opinion. So in the homeschool co-op we do, all of the tutors, because they're not teachers, because I think that's a legal loophole, all of the tutors go by Mr. and the few Misters' first name. It doesn't matter what the age group is.
First name. Okay. Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. first name.
Yeah. And largely because that's all parents from within the group. So it's like sometimes the kids will refer to them as so-and-so's mom, right? But usually it's Mrs. first name. And I agree with you. I do think the reason your school is doing it is to facilitate that change in how you relate to adults. In the brief time I lived in Georgia, I learned, because in the South it's very common to call adults that you know Mr. and Mrs. first name. Okay, so all of my friends, I would always call them Mr. Like my best friend growing up, even though this was in New Brunswick at this point, I called him Mr. Dan, even though normal for that area would have been Mr. Fraser. And so any teacher I had was last name, but any adults that I knew outside of school was Mr. and Mrs. first name. Shortly after high school, I was at this men's retreat, and I was calling the older gentlemen they'd introduce themselves with their first name, but just because I was, I try to respect people older than me, I was using Mr. and Mr. first name. And one of the guys is like, did you grow up in the South? I was like, no, I grew up in Canada. I lived for a short time in Georgia. And he's like, listen, I understand you're doing that to be respectful. Treat me as a peer. And that for me was like a light switch moment. Like, I'm an adult now. I need to treat other adults as peers. But I struggle with that transition from youth to adult, right? Because how do I now they're my peers, but it doesn't I don't feel like they're my peers. Because for most of my life, adults, all of my life until that point, adults had been somebody that you treat differentially. My wife's family, all of the adults, they didn't call them aunt so-and-so. It was just their name. Her grandparents, she didn't call grandma and grandpa. She called them by their first name. She called her own mother by her first name. Still does. My family, we don't do that, right? I call them mom and dad. I call them aunt so-and-so, uncle so-and-so, grandma and grandpa. And that's something we've continued with my kids as well for family. This is how you address them. Part of the reason I look at it that way is because you're one of the few people in the world that gets to call her Rara. Everybody else calls her Elizabeth, right? Like that, you get that special connection. But also there's a level of respect that comes in there as well. As for your school, I think that that's a wise decision, around 12, 13, to start transitioning kids to be like, hey, let's take you to the next step a little bit so that you start to get a little bit more comfortable with concept of them as peers. But because of your age, they're really not your peers yet. But very soon they will be. So get used to calling adults by their first names. I think that's healthy to transition them out of that. I don't think that that's the magic bullet of why certain kids aren't good at talking to adults, but I think it's certainly helpful.
Maybe it's because I hear it every day. I find it weird.
Okay.
Because as
I still call some of my friends, I call you Mr. Jeff on occasion. I'm not insulted by it. I just, and it's not necessarily an uncomfortable thing of where I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore, but just
Oh yeah, that's right. You do that. It catches me off guard. Like, so my thing is like, as an employee, as a staff,
Sure. Yeah.
as someone that's providing a service for these students, and also providing a place of safety and a place of structure. Like, I'm not looking to go there to have these students be my peers. As a staff, I don't need to be peers with these students.
Right.
Like, I don't need to be revered because I have an ego. At least I don't think that's the way I'm perceiving this. But I want there to be a separation between us.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's what the mister does.
When there's a like, it doesn't matter the gender, but when a student comes up to me, he goes, "Yo, Jeff, what's up?" And I'm like, "Hi, Mr. Last name." Like, because I refer to them, I try to refer to them by their last name. Like, "Hi, sir." Like, "How are you doing?" Like I don't want that gap to be shorter between me and the students because I don't know their parents. In this day and age, like, I'm not looking to be chummy with students when I don't know their family.
That's probably very safe.
You know,
yep.
It's not that I'm scared of the student that something's going to go right. It's not that I'm insulted by it, and it's not that I think there needs to be separation though in academic situations.
Yes.
And honestly, I would even say, like, man, not just academic. When we go to church, like I want my daughter, I would prefer my daughter to go up to our pastor whenever she has to talk to him or whatever and refer to him, Pastor Mark, Pastor Jason.
Yeah,
I definitely, Jason, how are you doing? Like, and I find that the
even
same
with our
thing.
pastoral staff, who I'm pretty close in age with, I use pastor.
I think it's the same thing.
I also use doctor, even if it's a PhD. I think because it's a sign. Interestingly,
So,
my own grandfather was a doctor and didn't care for it, but my grandmother insisted on it.
So like I think it's just this idea of like if you're seeking something other than like just relationship. I think there needs to be like that structure of person A and person B have something in the middle that they need to exchange or work on, or like a business or whatever that needs to be dealt with. Like, and especially when we're dealing with minors versus adults, I don't like some of those lines being crossed. I find some students get a little too chummy with teachers because they're allowed to be comfortable, and I don't like that. And I'm not just saying just specifically the school I referenced, but like even the other school I sub at, which is a public school, and it is Mr. and Mrs. all the way through high school. Like, there's still times where a student thinks that they have the ability to
call you Jeff.
Well, because maybe it's a first year teacher and the student's 18. So you've got a 22-year-old and you got an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And now like
within
they're being chummy and talking about, hey, what'd you do this weekend? Like I don't like students feeling like they can do that, just easily. Is that okay? Or like, am I wrong about that?
I think in an education environment, it makes sense what you're saying, but also, like, I don't know, I'm also a little bit more comfortable, and it's probably just because of my biases, with that breakdown between hierarchies. Brandon, what do you have kids call you?
So at work, it's standardized that it's Mr. and Mrs. first name.
Okay.
And I am grateful for that. I think it's really helpful. And part of that is kind of funny, but I mean, all of our staff have radios, but I'm not going to lie. There's times if I didn't meet all of our new hires and I didn't meet all of our new residents and I walked down into the cottage, I would probably be confused as to who's who sometimes.
Sure.
Some of our older kids look older than some of our staff. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I have to be 21 to work there, but so it is good for that in that way. And it can be helpful for separation, just to be able, just to be able to understand, understand that. Yeah. Outside of that, totally fine with people just calling me Brandon.
Children as well, like children the same age as your children. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I would just say it is, to me, language does create culture, and language is important, but language, I do think, is just the beginning and isn't. I think what's more important is what is taught about those superiors in your school, about those adults, about those teachers, about the staff, whatever it is, and how we approach them. rather than what we call them. I do think they can and do go hand in hand often, but I think that hanging the argument on this specifically falls short of really what it should look like. I don't disagree, though, Jeff, that in an education, I still am not a huge fan of it in an education environment. But in personal life, I think it might be odd that one day my kids would call somebody Mr. whatever, Mrs. whatever, say they're 10 years older than them. And then at one point, my kid is 40 and that person is 50. And they're still calling them Mr. whatever, Mrs. whatever was the first name or their last name. I think that's a little odd. And I think that if that's not going to be odd, and that means that they're going to have to shift at some point to like the equals thing, like you're saying. Like anytime I go and anytime I meet any adult in the work field, for the most part, some people might introduce themselves by their last name, but most of the time, even via email, we're using first names. Doesn't matter how old this person is. I have no clue how old they are. We're using first names. So
if I were in Jeff's situation as a teacher, where the school transitions to from Mr. Reddick to Mr. Jeff, I think I'd probably call his students Mr. and Miss first name, unless it became like a disciplinary thing with like, hey, you have to stop doing that. Because like, for example, my kids call Jeff Mr. Jeff, and for me, it's a matter of respect due to age, recognizing that they're adults and you're children, but also like I do think that there's a whole aspect of you treat people with respect, not because of age, not because of station or anything like that, but because you treat people with respect, right? So if you're calling them Mr. Jeff or Mr. Nelson or Mr. Brandon purely to show respect, I think that still misses the point, right? Because unless you're calling everybody, like unless you're calling other 4-year-olds, right, with Mr. and Miss, then it's clearly not still about respect, isolated, right? I don't know. It's an odd thing. I think the Mr. and Mrs. first name is very much like a Southern hospitality sort of respect. So I do think it's interesting that we here in Ohio have a school doing that, because that's, at least to me, that's a very Southern U.S. thing. But it's something that I really... Go ahead.
They're not even putting the Mr. and Mrs. there.
Oh, it's just Jeff.
Yeah.
I thought they were calling you Mr. Jeff.
No,
okay.
At the school, 5th through 12th grade is just
interesting.
Jeff. And that's all the teachers. That's all the administration. It's just the principal, the assistant principal is just their first name.
And I find that pretty interesting from a standpoint of even like, man, when you're talking about different situations and you're like, yeah, Ryan and
disciplinary
Nate
action.
Talking. Like, whoa, are we talking like, is there a teacher involved here? Or is like these two kids? It's just,
I'm not offended by it. And like, if down the road I was able to work at this facility as a teacher and stuff, like, it's not enough for me to go, I wouldn't want to be employed there. Like I do appreciate I do love everything else about them, but that's just that's the one oddity. I'm like, I don't get it. But Brandon, you came out, you straight up came out and asked. I've never done that. And this is my 3rd year working there. It's like, I've just kind of like, this is what they do. I assumed it was a Mennonite thing. I'm going to be honest.
Might be. It very well could be.
But yeah, it's just weird. There's probably just self-analyzing me here, and then we'll get back into the movie and stuff here. Maybe there's a little bit of pride with me and stuff with that, because like when I was youth pastoring, I never saw myself how do I say this? Like, I knew I was doing the best job I could when I was in that role, and I did it a couple different locations, but because it was never a full-time position, I never saw myself as fully achieving that role of Pastor Jeff.
Oh, okay.
So when I was youth pastor, I hated it when the kids called me Pastor Jeff. I was just like, Jeff's fine. Because for me, that was internal. That was
you
like,
hadn't earned it.
I'm part-time. Like I work at Chipotle too. So like, please don't call me that felt weird. And then there was some other conflicts and stuff with some other administration at a different church that also kind of fed into that fact where like, I don't think I'm valued here the way I'm trying to strive for. And and I struggle. It's like that's another place where I've been employed where like title was something I was conflicted about, because like just Jeff's fine. Like, and this is from me to the students. I'm like it's like I didn't feel like Pastor Jeff was appropriate. So that's just me. That's just my 2 cents. Like, so there may be part of this whole thing where it's like, maybe it's just me, but I don't know. I just, this day and age, I like there being a separation of adults and students. I like there being a line, you know? So, and whatever that line is, I like there being a line.
For identification purposes, that does make sense. I will say we are talking about the 7% of communication. 93% is nonverbal, which 55% of that is body language. The other is tone, rate, volume, that type of a thing. And so really what we're referring to is the 7%. And so I would be more concerned if the 93% was communicating disrespect. That's what I'm most concerned about. You know, if somebody comes up to me and calls me whatever, and they do it in a polite, appropriate, respectful way, and they're communicating with me respectfully, that's what I'm looking for more so.
I've never heard that before, Brandon. I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. But the separation in the academic environment, I do still prefer that. But that's also what I was used to. Also, by the way, Nelson, I was homeschooled until the age of 12, until 7th grade. Just as a fun fact. And to your comment, I know this goes way back and it's a complete side trail, but I actually almost always experienced the opposite.
Okay.
The lack of socialization and our homeschool situation was a little different.
Okay.
But just some of the lack of socialization led to more awkwardness and less familiarity with, talk to just people in general. That includes peers and adults.
Yeah.
And personally, me, I mean, I definitely struggled with, the socialization when I did go to school, and in the 7th grade at that point. But I remembered, I think I remembered feeling awkward around both, adults and the students at that point. If I remember correctly. But it's just an interesting comment. I'll have to pay attention more.
No, I mean, of course, I'm speaking in generalities, right? There's going to be outliers on both sides. With both, right? There's going to be really socially awkward public school kids and really socially competent, even with adult public school kids, and the same can be said for homeschool kids. This is a sweeping generality that I've noticed, and I've heard other people echo. And as much as I harp on public schools, my issue with public schools is that they're public, not that they're schools, right?
Yeah.
And Jeff and I have talked about this at length. And the funny thing is, and I hear this a lot, and I think early on in the conversation on this, Jeff mentioned it as well. Not in this conversation, but in the ongoing conversation we've had about schooling and education. He had made the point that there's no one size fits all for kids. And my response is that's exactly my point, right? Public school attempts to be one size fits all, and it's for 90% of kids. Homeschooling's up a significant amount. It's close to 10% of kids in the U.S. now. But yeah, there is no one size fits all for education. And my gripe with public school is that it's tax funded, which is theft, and that it's one size fits all. But I'll step off that soapbox now. Mr. Pastor Jeff.
Oh gosh. You want to give him some cast here?
Take a look at your title here. Did you see that?
Oh, did you changed it?
Yeah, I did.
Mr. Pastor Jeff. There you go.
We've gotten off course because we have not even covered stats about the film yet.
It's fun. I mean, but we talked about. I mean, we've
a great conversation.
We're just going out of order here. This is great. Notable cast. Robin Williams, first and foremost.
He's in this?
Yeah. He was the lamp in the cave.
He was the god of the cave.
I'm a huge Robin Williams fan. When he died in 2014, like that wrecked me. I don't think I've ever been affected by a celebrity as much as I have been his passing. Like that was hard. Like his ability to do comedy and drama and mesh the two together but also be tangible and authentic and what seems is genuine and just human. Mm-hmm. Like he did it so well. Like one of my all-time favorite actors, and anyways, I'm blushing, but he played John Keating. Some of his notable films, he's got many, but I have kept my list short here. Mrs. Doubtfire, Good Morning Vietnam, The Birdcage, Good Will Hunting, which spoiler alert is our next movie. Aladdin, Hook, and he was in a movie. And I wouldn't have originally kept this on his list, but because of some of the specific lines in the movie that we just watched, he was in a movie in 1986 called Seize the Day. And I thought that was a fun fact.
Oh, interesting.
And how that came back to totally unrelated to this, but he was in a movie titled Seize the Day in 1986. So I thought that was fun.
Before you move on, real quick.
Yeah.
Robin Williams, no longer top 250, but previously Aladdin, Awakenings, which I've not heard of, Dead Again, which I've not heard of, The Fisher King, which I have heard of and I intend to see. A lot of people say that the Joker and I can't think of the movie that everybody says the Joker is basically based off of. That both of them draw from The Fisher King, and the other one, which I'm very surprised to see Robin Williams was part of, was Hamlet.
Movie Hamlet?
Yes, one of the movies Hamlet.
Yeah, none of those. Aladdin should definitely be top 250.
It was
Aladdin's
when we
up there
started
with
this
Lion
show.
King for
It was
me.
on it. It was on it for like
It
the
was.
first year, and we just didn't get to it, and now it's off.
So, but Brandon, do you have a special relationship with Robin Williams?
I love Flubber.
That's a great movie.
Great.
Underrated.
Yes.
Growing up, I love that one. Mrs. Doubtfire, yeah, for sure.
My favorite line from that is the drive-by fruiting.
Oh no, must have been a drive-by fruiting. Yeah.
My friend was a huge fan of Robin Williams and felt the same as you, Jeff. When he died, but yeah, I like his character. It's kind of his acting.
Alrighty, moving on. Robbery, Sean Leonard.
Robert.
Why did I write robbery?
Y and T are next to each other.
Oh, yeah, that's why. Gosh. That's a weird name. Man, the 80s were crazy. He played Neil Perry. He is the one that's from the show House. He's in 176 episodes of the show House. He's kind of the straight character, like you've got the crazy character, and then he's like the moral compass.
Yes,
where House is the chaotic and stuff so. Yeah, so House is a great show. I enjoy that show. He's also in The Age of Innocence and Much Ado About Nothing,
which is a previous top 250 and also a Shakespeare film.
Correct. Shakespeare has some reoccurring themes in this movie.
Well, also with the cast themselves, we have Robin Williams in Hamlet and Sean, what's his name? Robert Sean Leonard in Much Ado About Nothing.
Robbery. Ethan Hawke, he played Todd Anderson. He's in Training Day, Before Sunrise, Before Midnight, Before Sunset, and The Glass Onion, which we were talking about previously. And I will say a fun fact. His wife is Uma Thurman, and their daughter, Maya Hawke, is in Stranger Things. So she's currently
the
having
lesbian.
a big season right now. Robin. Yeah.
Robin. Real quick on Ethan Hawke, we will see him again. Before Sunrise and Before Sunset are both top 250. Before Midnight was. So was
oddly enough, those movies have no connection. They just randomly have the same name.
Also, Gattaca was. Boyhood was. Did you see Boyhood?
No, I lived it.
It was an incredible film because it was all the same cast shot over 18 years.
Really?
Every year they did a scene. It's incredible. I recommend it. It's an incredible filmmaking project and quite good. And the main character, the boy, is about our age, so watching it is incredibly nostalgic.
That's weird.
He was also in Quiz Show, which will come up with a later cast member.
Okay.
Which is a top 250.
Gotcha.
No longer, but was.
Josh Charles played Knox Overstreet. He was in Four Brothers, SWAT, The Good Wife, which was 108 episodes, and Muppets from Space. I always like including
I love that movie.
Any Muppets connection.
I love Muppets.
Yeah.
I've got nothing for him. This is his only top 250 credit.
Yeah. Gail Hansen, he played Charlie Dalton. This is the student that killed himself in the film. He didn't have much of a roster, so I didn't, just because he was a prominent character in the movie.
Yeah. They did both of them did great in this movie.
His most notable film outside this is a movie called Zelig. I'm unfamiliar with it, but other than that, he doesn't have any acting credits. So
it's really disappointing for both of them because I think they did phenomenal in this movie.
Yeah. Dylan Kussman, he played Richard Cameron. He's in Jack Reacher, the 2017 Mummy, Leatherheads, Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning, some of his big ones.
He has a previous off 250 credit in X2.
Oh, nice.
X gonna give it to you. Vin Diesel, egg in the vest.
Alelion Ruggiero. I
have no idea.
I didn't. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce the name, but Alelion Ruggiero. He played Stephen Meeks, the kid with the unfortunate last name. He was in Fallen, Thinner, and then 12 Monkeys. So not much of a roster there as well.
And 12 Monkeys is a phenomenal movie. We should do it in our off 250 sometime. It was previously top 250. I say phenomenal. I've seen it once and remember quite liking it, but maybe if I watched it again today, I'd be like, this was terrible. But it was previously in the top 250.
James Waterston, he played Gerard Pitts with the other unfortunate last name in the movie. He has no.
And they make
a
joke about his last name.
Yeah, correct. That's why I was saying it. He's got no other acting credits, but again, I wanted to kind of keep the full cast in here and make sure that they were mentioned. So, Norman Lloyd, he played Mr. Nolan. He was in Saboteur, The Age of Innocence as well, and 132 episodes of a show called Saint Elsewhere.
Oh, Saint Elsewhere is actually where we get the all of television is in the same shared universe theory.
Oh, so he's a part of that.
Yeah.
So that
he's
there you go. Couple more here. Kurtwood Smith, he played Mr. Perry. He's in Broken Arrow, RoboCop, Star Trek 6, Rainbow 3, That 90s Show, and That 70s Show.
You should have led with that.
Listen, Nelson, wait, hold on. I go chronologically on IMDb, so I go from
fair.
newest to oldest.
Okay.
So I couldn't just mention the 70s show. Like I had to include the whole catalog.
Him as Red
of
Foreman
series.
is terrific.
So,
He had, I should say, a previous top 250 credit of A Time to Kill.
Okay. So 226 episodes within that franchise of the 70s show. Jan Ponal, he played McAllister. No other acting credits. Two more here. George Martin, he played Dr. Hagar. He was in Awakenings. Leon the Professional and One Fine Day.
So Leon the Professional is where we will see him again, because that is
Correct.
top 250.
That's top 250.
Awakenings, previously top 250, and he was also on Quiz Show, which Ethan Hawke was on, which is a previous top 250 credit.
I'm not familiar with the Quiz Show. That's why
Me either. Never heard of it.
Skated over that. Yeah.
Maybe we should be doing previously top 250s and our off 250 a little more often, because those are, presumably good movies.
Yeah. Laura Flynn Boyle, she played Jenny, the love interest of, I forget which student, but she was the love interest that had the boyfriend that played football. She's been in Men in Black 2, Wayne's World, 30 episodes of Twin Peaks, and 132 episodes of The Practice. So she continued to stay busy after this movie. So
for her,
yeah. All in all, I thought this movie was well casted.
Certainly well acted. Yeah,
definitely well acted. And I will say, like, and it's kind of I don't know if it's a trope, but it just kind of happens. Like, I don't know if I would have, if you would have just showed me a shot of these guys on the campus, just like a moment from the movie, I would have assumed they were in college. So they all seemed a little bit older than high schoolers.
Sure. Well, I mean,
maybe it's because they were smoking. Maybe it's because like
some of them had pimples and breakouts and stuff from period to period. So
you see that a lot though with actors playing high schoolers. A lot of times they're older than that character and stuff. So like, but I kind of felt like they seemed older than 14, 15, 16, 17.
I think they're supposed to be seniors. And so that kind of blurs the lines a bit more. I thought they were believable as teenagers, or at least. Okay.
No, it didn't take me out of the movie. I'm just saying, like, it's just kind of one of those things I noticed. Like, I was like, yeah, these guys are probably in their 20s, like acting.
Yeah. If you told me they were 15, I wouldn't have believed it.
Well, actually, you wouldn't believe it, but this movie is 8.1 out of 10 on the IMDb. It currently sits at number 179 on the top 250. And just fun fact, the last movie we did was number 180, Wild Robot.
Oh,
we're doing two consecutive movies here.
Yeah,
we're moving on up. So I thought that was a little fun fact there. What's this movie's history on the top 250?
So it's been on since 1996, and the very interesting thing about this, compared to a lot of movies we cover on the top 250, it's been steadily climbing. It started out Yeah, so it was on in 1996 and fell off almost immediately. It really didn't come back on in earnest until 2017, and it's been steadily climbing since then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it should continue.
So it popped
That
up in
trend.
1996 and then disappeared for about 20 years. Is that right? Yeah.
That is math. Yeah. 85% tomato meter, 92% audience. So good marks there. What was the budget for this film? 1989.
All right, $16.4 million in 1989. Brandon, would you like to take a guess at what $16.4 million is today from 1989?
Say 38.
Jeff?
45.
Ooh, Jeff, real close, 43.
I'm getting good at this now.
That's how much the dollar has been devalued since 1989.
That number sounds about right for a movie like this.
Yeah, no practical effects, no visual effects, just set and cast.
Yeah, and the cast wasn't real. None of them were real huge.
Robin Williams.
He was. I mean, I guess he was from Mork and Mindy before that. Like,
sure.
So he had a TV name.
Interesting thing about Robin Williams in this.
He wasn't a big screen actor at this point.
Interesting thing though about Robin Williams in this is that he was the first pick to be in the movie, and they tried out a bunch of different people as well, and eventually settled on him anyway. Let me see if I can pull up here. Okay, they also tested Dustin Hoffman, Mel Gibson, Tom Hanks, and Mickey Rourke. Imagine Mickey Rourke in this role. And then Robin Williams, who was their preferred choice, was ultimately cast. The original director for this movie, Williams, didn't show up to set the first day of filming because he refused to work with the director.
Who was it?
The original director, let me pull that up here
Quentin
again.
Tarantino.
No, Jeff Kanew, Kanew, most known for Revenge of the Nerds and Ordinary People, but he refused to work with them, so they fired him, got a new director, and they burned the set.
Oh my gosh! What of the set did they burn?
No, that's all it says.
This movie was all filmed on location.
Apparently, originally it wasn't. It was originally going to be in. So they filmed at St. Andrew's School and the Everett Theater in Middletown, Delaware. But the first day of filming was supposed to be in Atlanta, outside Atlanta. Williams did not show for he did not want to work with Kanew. The studio burned down the already built sets and replaced Kanew with another director.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See the power you hold when you don't show up for your job. Man, change history.
Well, I am the director at my job, so if I didn't show up when they fired me,
Imagine
that would make sense.
Yeah. Man. Okay, so that's it for facts. What's your guys' experience with this film? Was this your guys' first time watching it? Have you seen it before? Where are you at with this film when it comes to this viewing?
You first, Brandon.
Yeah, I've never seen it before.
Oh.
It's part of the reason I picked it was because I've heard good things about it, and also stuff that I work with that I know that it was her favorite movie. I saw like on a little like fun fact sheet or something like that. So I was like, oh, cool. It was right around the time you texted me, Jeff. So I was like, oh, I'll try this one and see how it is.
Nice.
The last time I saw this was in high school, in school. I remember watching it
in school?
Yeah, I think English class. We watched it.
I guess that makes sense.
And I really enjoyed it then, and I haven't seen it since. But I really enjoyed watching it this time, and I understand why I enjoyed it so much then.
Yeah, Lindsay and I had watched it some point in the last 14 years of our marriage. We can't remember why we were motivated to watch it and stuff, but so I'd seen it once before. Essentially, the only thing that I retained from it from the first viewing was I knew a student took his own life, and I knew that they stood on the desk and said "Captain, my Captain." Like that was pretty much it. I didn't remember much of the rest of the plot, but I just remember liking it and going, "Wow, that was powerful," and moved on. So yeah, this was my second viewing from it, and man, I'll tell you what, this is the first time I viewed it since working with students in an academic setting, and that changed my perspective with this film. And obviously it's a fictional movie, but it does challenge some of the teaching styles. Like it does go like, is tradition and rough structure or rigid structure better than fast and loose type of mentality, and I think by the end of this movie, you realize that both are valuable, or both can have value.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. And I obviously, like, with my personality and stuff and just the way I like to interact with other humans, like, I much adhere more to the, yes, please rip the first chapter out of this book, get rid of it. Like I much prefer that type of style of teaching than I do the, okay, let's just, Professor Snape style. Let's just read from the beginning of the book, and we're just going to read, write, and test. Like, so I like that. Plus, just Robin Williams. So
I'm curious, Jeff. I did not pick up from this movie that it implied both were valuable. So,
okay.
What was it in the movie that you felt was saying tradition, structure, etc. are valuable? I agree with you that both are valuable, but I didn't feel the movie said that.
Good question. I should have an answer. I don't know. Like, okay, so I don't know, and that's
because
not a good
the
enough.
Characters said it.
Well,
the movie itself, I would agree with Nelson. Didn't seem to value the tradition part, but the characters did. A lot of the characters, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. As I've gotten older, there's things that I'm realizing that I yearn for, and I'm desiring when it comes to different realms of my life and stuff. And some of them is church culture. My desire for church culture and stuff like is evolving a little bit.
You want more liturgy?
I love liturgy.
I do. Like, I want less stage presence. I want less.
And both Jeff and I go to the same church, and there's not much liturgy. And and I love liturgy.
I love the modern songs we sing. Like, we've got a great worship team. I participate on the worship team. I believe we're doing stuff to excellence in the way we use our gifts and stuff. Like, but at the same time, like, I feel like it can be distracting. Not that it is distracting, but it can be distracting. And I find that is, for me personally, sometimes personally.
Yeah. So, the rare occasion we do a hymn, I love it.
Yeah. And so maybe the reason I had that opinion about this film is because I have long since been desiring to go back to an academic setting, not as the teacher, but as a student. Like, I've really been in this season of loving to learn. That was not me in high school. And there's something attractive to me about these prep type places like Harvard, Yale, these places that are like, and it's so different than who I am. Mm-hmm. But there's something attractive about it, because like this idea of going to a school and just listening to it, like there's, I don't know, something excites me. Like, it's exciting for me. Mm-hmm. And so watching the movie, I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know if I would have survived there, but I don't know, as an adult, like, I kind of appreciate just you don't need to have multicolored posters on the wall. You don't need to have bright lights. You don't need to have a computer screen. You don't need to have a smart board. Like, you just need humans, and you need someone to teach the humans. And so there's something, I don't know, like, it's very much it's not stripped down in the way as academics goes, but it is stripped down in the way of the tools that they use. It's just, and I don't know, that's attractive to me.
Entirely agree. Like, I love what's now called classical education, right? Like, my kids know Latin. I don't know hardly a lick of Latin. We have constantly I don't know if innovative is the right word, but new technologies entering the classroom to try and make education better, but all our standardized test scores continually decline, right? We're introducing new technologies, increasing funding, especially in the public sphere, and test scores continue to decline. So obviously there's not a strong correlation between these things. And I do think that a return to fundamentals is long past due.
Like, if you look at children's books, like today versus children's books back in the day, The Hobbit was a children's book. I've tried reading that as an adult, and I struggle with it.
I love it.
Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah,
like reading that as an adult is going like, wow, like, this is some profound stuff for a kid's book. Like, and like, I feel like we have
A lot of the stuff by I'm blanking on his name. The guy
George R. Martin.
No, I'm thinking Tom Sawyer, Mark Twain. A lot. Samuel. I can only think Samuel Clement, which is his real name. Tom Sawyer. Mark Twain. His writing. I remember I was reading, not National Treasure, Treasure Island to my boys, and I'm like, wow, this is impenetrable. Yeah, so, and it's a kid's book.
I think that's part of like the reason why I'm going like something's happened.
Yeah.
Like, not that we're dumber, because like we still as a society, like we're still innovating. We're still, we're still moving forward, but our ways, our ability to interpret, our abilities to read, our abilities to digest things have become, and me included, I'm not like, and I've talked about this before, like I'm not a critical thinker. I'm not a complex thinker, but I want to be. And it's like, but then I look at the books that people used to read back in the day. Like I've gone through a lot of stuff that my dad had. Like I'm going through stuff that, from his childhood and stuff. And like, I'm realizing like, man, like they were so much, it seems like they were so much more smarter than us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said you don't think we're getting dumber. I do think we are. I also there's evidence to point to we are getting dumber. Certainly our attention spans are shorter.
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
But despite that, I mean, Joe Rogan does 3-hour podcasts, and it's one of the biggest shows on the internet, right? And I know I've talked about it before, but John Taylor Gatto, who is the most decorated public school teacher in New York history, has a couple different books. One is called Dumbing Us Down, The Hidden Curriculum of Compulsory Schooling. The other one is Weapons of Mass Instruction. And both of them is like, listen, my job is not to create critical thinking, well-functioning members of society. My job is to create cogs in a machine who answer to orders, right? Then there's the brilliant book by Neil Postman, Amusing Ourselves to Death, about how 1984 came out the same year as A Brave New World. And in 1984, we celebrated the fact that we hadn't become what had been predicted there, not realizing that we had become what A Brave New World predicted, which is that we would be so fat and comfortable that we wouldn't engage in critical thinking. And this movie does have some commentary on that too, because, let me pull up the exact dialogue here. What was going on in the courtyard the other day? And Keating says, courtyard? Nolan says, yeah, boys marching, clapping in unison. Oh, that was an exercise to prove a point. Dangers of conformity. Well, John, the curriculum here is set. It's proven. It works. If you question it, what's to prevent them from doing the same? I thought the idea of education was to learn to think for yourself. At these boys' age, not on your life. Tradition, John. Discipline. Prepare them for college, and the rest will take care of itself. Yeah, what he means by think for yourself is be a critical thinker, right? Don't believe something just because it's handed to you. And I do think that largely as a culture, we've lost that. And the attempts to reclaim that have been pretty ugly in some regards. Like flat earth theory, I think, is largely an attempt to reclaim thinking for yourself. It's not critical thinking is the problem, right? But it's because you're trying to reject things that have been handed to you and believe them just because they've been handed to you. I apologize to anybody in the audience that believes the earth is flat. It's hot dog shaped, as we all know.
One of those, yeah.
The funny thing, actually, I recently heard Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about it, and he's saying it's an oblong spheroid, and actually the equator is slightly closer to the South Pole, so it's slightly more pear-shaped. I thought that was really funny because I remember when I was first reading about flat Earth theory on a lark, I was looking at the different theories of the different shapes of the Earth, and one of them, which was a quote-unquote disproven theory, was that it was pear-shaped.
Pear-shaped?
Well, turns out actually it's slightly pear-shaped.
mildly fruitaceous.
Yeah.
Brandon, this is completely random, but like, are there any conspiracy theories that you kind of find yourself believing? Are you a conspiracy theorist guy? Are there just a couple, or do you completely like no, that's just, I stay out of that realm. Like any of that fancy you?
I believe there are lots of conspiracies. I think they're out there. I think that people do them. I think that it's a thing. I think generally people are too evil and too dumb not to. I would say, are there any specific ones? Yes, for sure. I can't think of like any
don't
big
commit
ones.
to any that would jeopardize your job.
That's right. Yeah, I know, right? I can't think of any huge ones at the moment. But I do think quite a bit about the decline of society and quite a bit about the well.
Since you mentioned decline of society in the context, go ahead. Sorry,
I'll say decline of society, but I also won't. I'm not going to be one to say that it's like just so much worse now than it's ever been. There's, before the flood, God said he looked on the earth and he saw that every intention of the heart was only evil continually. That is pretty dark.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not going to say that like everything right now is, or that
hell in the handbasket
is a worse place than. Yeah, absolutely. But I do think that there's just certain aspects to it that, and I mean, I'm pretty cynical about America in general. Just, the American dream. And I've gone to multiple different countries, developing countries. And I think materialism and the general idea of American success is just so ridiculously backward. Even the nuclear ideal of the family and the individualistic culture, big proponent against that. So, yeah. And Jeff, to answer your question, if you ever read To Hell with the Hustle by Jefferson Bethke, he does go through and talk about a lot of how with each new invention, people not counting the cost of that invention, like they only ever saw the benefit in it, and people not counting the cost of it ultimately led to us becoming more lazy, more comfortable, and people always choosing money over time. A lot of inventions were created to save time, and instead of just using that time to be and using that time to exist, to be a good friend, to be a good family member, to be in communion with God, people chose to, now I have extra time to work. Now I have extra time to make more money. Now I have extra time to do this, which doesn't really matter. So it's pretty fascinating. If you want to check that book out, he does a great job explaining that history, and then explains a good case for throwing away the busyness and the rush and the hustle of American society. Really good read.
Yeah. Because of my worldview, right? I am a devout capitalist. And I appreciate that you said materialism, because materialism is often mislabeled as capitalism. And I agree, materialism is a real problem in American culture. Time saved, what you do with the time saved is reflects your heart, right? And in American culture, the productivity that can be gained from that time saved, that's not even the right word for it, because time saved is productivity, right? Like, you're doing the job in a more productive manner. What you do with the additional productivity in American culture should be earning more money. Like, that's what our culture is geared towards. And there's a lot of ways that I think that that's what's made our country very economically strong, but culturally very weak. And I think that you also mentioned individualism there negatively. I disagree. I quite value individualism, but there is a balance there between the individual. Like, how do I word this? I value individualism. I also think that community is largely undervalued, right? Like, there's a balance there, right? If you're too community oriented, and there is such a thing, then you become utilitarian, right? Where what is the most communal good of an action? And I don't think that's healthy either. If you're too individualist, it's, well, what's the most benefit for me personally? And that's not healthy either. It's the ditch on either side thing. But I largely agree with everything you said there, and I haven't read that book, but I've heard it referenced, and I've read like a Cliff Notes version of it, and I think that he's got some incredible insights.
Yeah, the individualism comment I made was specifically with regards to families, and in regards to the idea that America says the family should be for the individual's success, as opposed to the individual should be really looking at the family as a team and making that team successful.
Absolutely.
And how biblically it was, the family line was carried down through generation to generation. The family's work, the inheritance, all of that. It really wasn't about, hey, we're growing you up to send you out.
Yes.
It was really each of the individual members were there for the team. Now the family supported the individual members, but it wasn't in a way of like it is now. And it's that can occur more with the invention of the car, the invention of airplanes, the invention of trains. All these good things that now just it's just wild if you trace it down the line. I mean, the fact that I work 35 minutes away, I spend 5 hours of my week driving in a car. I would personally rather have that back, to have time with my family, to have time to spend with God, to have time, whatever it is. But the fact that invention was created, of the car enables me to be able to do that, makes that a norm and something that, I chose to do without really thinking about it and counting the cost. And now here I am 11 years later, I'm counting the cost.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think pre-industrialization, it would have been wild for somebody to work 35 minutes away at a walking or a cart's pace, right? That we work 35 minutes away at a car's pace is historically unprecedented. But people did typically work much closer geographically and probably also in commute to home. I absolutely agree, though, with what you were saying about individualism at the cost of the family instead of vice versa. There's the fundamental building block of society is the family. If you don't have family cohesion, society deteriorates incredibly fast. And the two most catastrophic economic attempts of the 21st century, or of the 20th century, communism and fascism, both of them, so fascism prioritized the nation above the individual, which means also above the family. And then communism, one of the core goals of it was to abolish the nuclear family, and that it was the society's children, not the nation's children, because that's National Socialism or fascism, but it's the same concept. And even today, you'll see Marxist movements talking about how the nuclear family is evil, and you'll hear politicians talk about the nation's children, right? And for me, like, that's somewhere where like I'm not super protective about my stuff. But when you start to talk about my family as your kids, like, okay, we have a problem now, right? Like, no, they're not your kids, right? I don't co-parent with you. These are my kids. And I think that's, going back, I mentioned earlier, the ditch on either side. When you make, if the family exists to serve you, that's the ditch on one side. And if the family doesn't exist and all people to serve the community, that's the ditch on the other side.
Sure, for sure. Yep.
I did not expect to be talking about the the nuances of National Socialism and et cetera because of this movie.
I don't think it's a stretch though that we're here. It makes sense how we.
Because it never takes me long to get there.
No, you live there. You live there, Nelson.
Well, there is almost no talk about government in this, but there is one throwaway line. It's one of the scenes when they're having their Dead Poet Society group. One of the guys just says in the background, "We're from the government. We're here to help." Do you know what that's a reference to?
It's a vague. I mean, like, that specific statement is from something else very specific?
Yes.
Okay, then I don't know that answer.
That's a very, very specific reference. I can't remember what it was. Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan said the most dangerous words you can ever hear Or the scariest words you can ever hear is, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." And he said that while president, right? So and it was like a throwaway background chatter line when they're trying to get the group, like trying to start that particular session of the Dead Poets Society. It was when he was playing saxophone. One of the other guys said it in the background, and I was like, "Why is that in there?" And also, I'm writing that down.
You said a quote earlier, Nelson, and where it ends. You may have even said how it ends, but it's that argument of like, it was John Keating and Mr. Nolan is like, I always thought the idea of education was for them to think for themselves.
Yes,
Mr. Nolan's response to that was, at these boys' age, not in their life. So that specific line kind of made me think of a book I partially read, but a seminar I went to. So I went to a youth ministry seminar years ago, and it was through youth specialties. There it is. And the one seminar was on this idea of adolescence, and this essentially like how this age, this defined age of adolescence is continually growing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of making a stretch from the movie, but that line is what made me think of this thing, which Brandon, I'm hoping you have insight on this, working with students and stuff. And then I feel like this is something that I'm very much observing is as an American culture. And I can't speak for other countries. And in the seminar I went to multiple years ago was also from the Americans' perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But just talking about this idea of like, as a society, we've continually grown this adolescence gap. And I'll try to summarize it short and stuff, but essentially it's just this idea of like, physically, students are maturing at a younger age. Male and female, they're coming into puberty. That something's happening, something's on the water, something's happening, but kids are maturing earlier physically. But then on that other end, we've got a large amount of society that's going, okay, you got to go to high school, got to go to college. Now you got to get a job. Now you got to adding all these things before you settle down, which part of settling down is, finding a mate, a spouse. It's like, so that middle part is what they call adolescence. Mm-hmm. And it's this idea. And so to take this to the final step, because it was a youth ministries conference, it was talking about the concept of like sexual promiscuity, sexual purity, and this idea of like what do we teach about that? Because looking at that calendar or the years of what that gap covers, you've got kids that are maybe 10, some as young as 10, mm-hmm. becoming physically mature, and then we as a church were saying, don't do anything sexually until you get married. Mm-hmm. And some, I'm kind of coming at this as a devil's advocate, but just kind of presenting it the way it was presented to me. Like, and we're saying, okay, you can't do anything sexually until you get married, but that gap is now maybe 25, almost 30. So now we're saying there's a 20-year gap of students being sexually, and I don't know how to say that, like sexually ready or sexually curious. Mm-hmm. And we're going, nope. Just sit on it for 20 years. Just hold on. Like, don't worry about lust. Don't worry about just, and that's where that whole concept was like, students are starting, they're ready they're looking for at this age.
Yeah.
And we as a church are going, nope, put it off. Don't talk about it. Don't think about it. And it's just, there's a big thing of tension there of like, how do we handle from a faith perspective, from a church perspective, and even within a faith household, a faith adhering household, mm-hmm. How do we acknowledge that when, like, Mary was probably 13 years old? Again, I'm not justifying any minor situations, but I'm just saying, like, there is a weird thing there that's conveyed versus like what's I don't know how to explain that without putting words in my mouth and sounding really creepy. But that seminar has stood out to me and just stuck with me of just this idea of like this widening gap of adolescence, and not just in the sex category, but in other categories of trauma or ability to learn or ability to function in society. So like we're creating this we may be potentially creating this this weird kind of chasm that we're trying to fit, like we're trying to put a box around or something. Is what I'm saying, trying to make sense of what I'm trying to present to you. Like, and so anyways, all that to say that line made me think about just like, these are boys. Okay. So what age, like, do we let them be boys, let them be kids, or do we start treating them like adults? Where does that happen? And is that different for everybody? Like, and I've said a lot. If I need to rehash it, let me know. But I just wanted to throw all that out.
Yeah. Brandon, do you mind if I go first? Because I want to have the real expert wrap us up on this and tell me where I'm wrong.
I like that. And you got to keep it within 2 minutes.
I would love for you to go first so that you can interpret that for me.
So, like,
Shots fired.
There's a very real trend in documented history. 12 to 14, you were treated as an adult, considered an adult, and now that it was in the 40s that the term teenager came around, and then now we have people very much acting juvenile, well into their late 20s, early 30s. My dad said to me years ago that responsibility breeds maturity. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And having responsibility thrust upon you, I think, is often the only way people mature. People rarely take on additional responsibility willingly. It's usually put upon them. That's why, a young girl who her parents are deadbeats and raises her brothers and sisters will be a much more mature. I mean, there's going to be baggage and additional issues there as well, but they're going to be more mature as an adult than her peers. I think, and I know that there is documentation and study to back this up, but I think compulsory schooling has largely led to a delay or an extension of what we would consider adolescence. I don't think it was healthy, but it was very common for, people to begin working at 6, expected to contribute to the family at 14, and that's very much a function of the era. If you're an agrarian society, you need to contribute to the household. Post-industrialization didn't require that. Most countries where child labor was outlawed, it was already uncommon by the time it was outlawed. And that was... So I do think that's a significant portion of it. We grew up in a generation that the purpose of elementary school was to prepare you for middle school. The purpose of middle school was to prepare you for high school. The purpose of high school was to prepare you for college, right? Like, none of it was for itself, right? It's not like you're developing an education now. We're teaching you to be critical thinkers now. No, we're preparing you for the next step, right? And so your whole formative years is preparing you for the next thing, not really understanding why that's significant. And I think that kind of conditions you that you're not yet responsible, and so I think that kind of aids in the whole unwillingness to take on responsibility. I know that when I got married, I matured pretty rapidly, pretty quickly, because I had to be responsible in a different way now. When I had my first child, I matured pretty rapidly because I had to be responsible in a different way now. And I think I think that the delayed adolescence is also largely a result of delayed responsibility. I think we need to be giving responsibility to people at much younger ages. To go back to the actual quote about, thinking for yourself and critical thinking, I don't think it's ever too early to teach critical thinking. I think that's something that the earlier you teach it, the better. That's not to say that my kids are competent critical thinkers, but I think that they're in some ways probably more critical thinkers than other people their age. They're certainly more critical thinkers than I was at their age. If we'll use that as a comparison, I can't compare them to their peers because I don't know a whole lot of their peers. But I think, I think that let kids be kids. Yes and no, right? Like, foster imagination, foster creativity, encourage that inquisitiveness, but don't remove responsibility from that. They need responsibility. You need to prepare them for responsibility young, because that's going to be the majority of their life. But don't snuff out that childhood innocence and curiosity and imagination with too much responsibility. I think that the past however many years of American culture especially has been fostering curiosity and imagination at the expense of responsibility, rather than trying to find a healthy balance. Brandon, your thoughts?
I think in terms of generations, I agree with what you're saying, Nelson. I think the modeling of children, so to speak, especially from like, okay, Gen X and boomers had the millennials, and the millennials had to, they were kind of raised in a more like, it was more structure heavy, and more like a just kind of like how they were raised, like just kind of pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. And man, there's a lot of good to that. I'm glad that I have some of that. Just like put your head down and just work hard and just do it. And I like that. But then, some of the things that we didn't necessarily get from that generation, which at times, wasn't the most positive, would be more of the nurture side of things. I think in terms of the structure nurture balance, or support challenge, balance. And so then generations often polarize to the opposite extreme with their children. And so this is where we get, if you have just kind of complete freedom, do whatever you want parenting, well, then you get a helicopter parent oftentimes from that. Or if you have somebody that's like just very structured, just kind of like because I said so type of parenting, well, then on the flip side of that, you get just like kind of this indulgent kind of do whatever you want type of thing. So I think that expectation generationally has lowered a bit. And I think that it has enabled kids. And I think that also indirectly leads to increasing levels of anxiety, because kids don't necessarily grow up feeling competent. But, if they're not pushed, if they're not given responsibility, if they're not empowered, then challenges in life come at them, whether they want it or not. And they don't know how to respond to it, and they don't know how to receive that. And so instead of a healthy challenge providing growth, it actually beats them down. And then they no longer, they kind of almost stop trying. And so like, there's this enabling, I think, you'll start to see, I think there's some dependent stuff. The whole failure to launch thing, you see that.
Good movie too.
There've been some shifts. Yeah. There've been some shifts as well. And interesting stats about like, Gen Z coming up and stuff. But I mean, if you look at the mental health rates, you can, I don't want to get into the little social media things, another like 5-hour conversation, but that plays an impact. That plays an impact because kids, in large part, are living their lives online. And there's not a lot of challenge with that. There's not a lot of responsibility with it. It's easy. It's there's a lot of damaging aspects to it. A lot of good too, but a lot of damaging aspects, a lot of hard aspects in some senses. But it's just an easy escape from reality. A lot of kids are not living in reality these days. I'd say we're more avoidant and dissociative as a society than ever. I mean, I can turn on my phone here and just a little bit and completely block out anything and everything for the next 48 hours if I wanted to, with no problem. So I don't know, just some thoughts to throw out there in addition to what Nelson said. I think all kind of goes together, which is I'll help to tie in, Jeff, back to the movie, which is the fear of the father in this movie in some senses. And so I have to enforce tradition. I have to enforce structure. If I don't, then you'll
never be a doctor.
End up with this. Yeah, you'll never be a doctor. You're going to end up with this willy-nilly acting career that's never going to do anything for you, never going to get you anywhere. And so it's really
you mentioned the word coddling. which always triggers in my thought process the same book. There's a book by Jonathan Haidt, who has the longest running sociological study on political ideology. I've referenced him a few times, but he wrote a book with Greg Lukianoff called The Coddling of the American Mind, How Good Intentions and Bad Ideas Are Setting Up a Generation for Failure. This was 2018. He published this. I had ChatGPT put together a quick summary and how it ties into this suspended adolescence. So one of the things he talks about, and it really plays into what we were saying there about responsibility. Kids grow up with without unsupervised play, without real risk taking, and with constant adult intervention. This reduces the child's autonomy, which delays maturity because they're not learning how to handle responsibility, how to make risk calculus decisions of their own. I was very, very fortunate that I would regularly tell my parents something I'm about to go do, and they just like kind of nod. And I learned after the fact that they would have conversations where my mom's like, we can't let him go do that. That's a really bad and stupid idea. And my dad would be like, no, it's important that he take risks and learn from risks. So I was playing with fireworks and stuff. And my dad was just like, okay. Right. And that I try to give my kids like hands off. Let's let them see what they're going to do time, because I think that is a healthy level of responsibility you can give a kid at that age, right? Is to take some risks on their own, supervised at a distance. But I mean, when I was 13, my brother and I would go out for bike rides and we'd be gone all day. You know, I know in high school there would be times where I'd go out on a bike ride with some friends and we'd be gone for a couple days. Like I wouldn't come back until the night after. And I'm sure my mom was speaking to their moms and she knew where I was, but I wasn't talking to her, you know. And I think that's I know as a parent, that's a difficult, like, how much leash do I give my kid? But I think it's really, really, really important. I think I'm better off for it. And I wanted to get that in before Jeff, you had a chance. Oh, actually, sorry, Brandon, did you have a thought on that before we turn it over to Jeff?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because, and it's bringing it back because I'm reading The Anxious Generation.
Yes,
by
Gadsden.
Jonathan Haidt, and he mentioned and he mentioned he referenced toward the beginning of the book the coddling of the American mind because he went back through the history of how this occurred, and he did talk about that makes sense. That's kind of what I was getting at as well. As I think he talked about how the earlier generations did provide more unstructured, unsupervised play, which allowed kids to be able to explore, in a healthy way, and also like, so, there's some aspects about society, depending on the neighborhoods you lived in, that we're safer to do that.
Sure,
there's certain neighborhoods now that people live in. If they do that, like, no, not a chance.
Honestly, the more dangerous neighborhoods in America is where you're more likely to find kids out. Is the weird thing, right? Like, so if you live I live relatively close to my grocery store, and I'll let my oldest son walk to the grocery store by himself. And we've had the police show up because well-meaning people in town saw him, or a well-meaning lady, and, wanted to make sure that he was being parented at home, right? But, like, you watch a movie set in the 80s, right? Like, I know that The Goonies is an exaggerated example, right? But there's like almost no parental supervision, and that wasn't a crazy idea, right? And I think that many in our generation were done a great disservice in the amount of parental attention we received as an overcorrection for their lack of parental supervision.
Yeah, polarizing.
I think that would be partially my experience. I have 3 older sisters that came from my dad's first marriage, and all of them came from, they all brought their different baggage from that situation.
Right.
Some pretty bad and some just minor, but baggage nonetheless. So for me, I think, I wouldn't say I was raised sheltered. I was not sheltered. I was like, but in the same sense, like my parents did not necessarily let me make my own mistakes. It was very much like, and I find myself doing that. I was like I'm the guy that goes, oh, be careful, drive safe. Like I find like habitually I'm saying stuff like that. Like,
text me when you get home.
Call me when you get home. Like, cause like I'm like
You've said that to me, and my response was like, in my head, I was like, dude, I'm 30. Like,
I'm not going to do that. Just like, but in my head, it's like, hey, I care about you. I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know you're home safe.
Yeah.
Like it's not that I don't trust you doing what you're doing. I don't trust the outside environment that's going to allow you to get you home safe. So I'm that parent. And so, but that's also how I was parented. My dad was very passive. My mom was a little bit more of the go out, have a good time, make a mistake. But at that same time, it was, but just so much. And having watched my 3 older sisters make mistakes, I saw them do all that crap and go, I don't know what's right and wrong. I'm not going to do any of that crap. The worst I ever did as a child, which I'm grateful for now, was like I had a little bit of a mouth on me. I was disrespectful to my parents, and I struggled with specific images and stuff on the internet and stuff. Like, so I had a little bit of a lust issue.
Beheading videos.
No, like, so like I didn't do drugs. I didn't smoke. We didn't have premarital sex. I wasn't running out of the house to go to parties. Like I wasn't doing any of that stuff because like I saw my sisters sort of deal with that in different ways. And I'm like, I ain't doing that. And on top of that, my parents are like, we're also not going to let you do that because we know what we already went through with your sisters. So my parents were a little bit more closed in I feel like I don't think I'm worse for it, but I do find that I'm a little bit more like, oh no, she's running on concrete. She's running on concrete. She can run on concrete. What am I doing? Like, I do find myself to be more of a helicopter parent. More so than Lindsay. I think Lindsay's even less than that than I am.
It's interesting. I
don't think that's wrong either. It's like, it's about knowing what you are as a parent and balancing it healthy, right? Like, I have to be more attentive because my instinct is to be like, nah, you're fine. Let him go, right? So I have to be more attentive than my instinct is.
Yeah. I mean, I teach trainings on this balance. And it's fascinating because I grew up, for whatever reason, like safety wasn't really a thing for me. It wasn't really a thing on my mind. And it's not necessarily like, because I was never in unsafe situations. I never remembered that word being used or the concept being like, being, discussed a whole ton or emphasized. Was more about like my mom knowing where I was, but she never, I don't never remember talking to me about safety. So then I get to a job at CCHO where like, it's all about safety. Like literally these kids are here because they weren't safe. Somebody hurt them or they hurt other people. And it was wild. Like I remember asking myself, like, why are all these people around me so concerned about safety?
Yeah.
not even joking, guys. Like I'm the clinical director of this place. And like, this is what was, obviously I wasn't at that point, but, it's just been such an interesting journey for me to realize that. And so Nelson, I'm definitely on your kind of end of the spectrum where I'm like, I'm letting my kids explore. I'm kind of letting them do. I'm there to help, like, when it gets a little wild, like they're going a little too much. I think that there's always going to be a balance that we have to strike. Can we jump to like specific movie stuff? Because I know you guys always ask that. And it's getting a little late.
Yeah.
The wrap up?
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
I
could, because I barely brushed the surface of the stuff I wanted to talk about in this movie, and there's just not enough time.
Yeah.
But we've been recording for 2 hours. Let's get to wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really enjoyed this conversation. This has been fun.
Yeah. And it's always a pleasure having you, Brandon, because you bring some insights that, it's kind of like how pastors are professional Christians, so they're going to have insights that lay Christians don't, and there's a sense that you're a professional parent, and so you're going to have insights that we as lay parents don't have, and it's always great to have you here for that.
Yep, I agree. I agree with that 100%.
That's cool. Yeah, appreciate that.
All righty, gentlemen, wrap up questions. Would you guys recommend this film? Oh, and just to recap, it is Dead Poet Society, 1989, rated PG. Would you guys recommend this?
Yes.
Yes, I would, but definitely with parental. If it's for teenagers, definitely with parental guidance, because it totally follows the course of many Disney movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the parental, the parental enforcement of whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and the kid rebels, and ultimately in the end it ends up being the parent who's the bad guy. Which yes, the parent was doing things to the extreme, but the kid still shouldn't have disobeyed. The kid still should have, not defied authority.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's a great film. I think it allows for thinking of challenging, what are some structures that we have established in our life that maybe we should be thinking differently about, or maybe just be thinking about in general. Not that everything needs to be challenged in some moments of our lives, but just going, oh, I've never, should I think of it this way?
Mm-hmm.
So just, there's the whole line of like, rip the introduction out, and then the one, cause like, just do it. Like, it's not the Bible. You're not going to go to hell for it. Like,
right.
Just this idea of like, I think there are some things that we put a severe emphasis on that, doesn't quite require it, but then there's some things that need it, and we're going, nah. I think this movie allows that, or can point in that direction.
Yeah. Before you get to the next question, Jeff.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in the past with Would You Recommend, where we say, it's good for this, this, and this, but there's other movies that are better at that. There's an interesting concept here that I want to touch on. I've been listening to the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast, and in yesterday's episode, he talked about what he calls twin movies, right? So that would be like Bug's Life and Ants. They come out at the same time, covering similar things. And then today, because he was talking about Philemon and Colossians, because those letters were written at the same time. Today he was like, that was a bad analogy. They're much more like companions, right? Where you have two stories that they're telling, they're trying to teach you the same thing and give you the same idea. I think we've covered a companion movie to this.
Okay, what was it?
I hate when my camera defocuses like that.
I don't remember that.
Into the Wild.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I would say that this is very much a companion movie with Into the Wild, because both of them are both of them have this concept of like defying your father because of a love of literature and exploring the world and getting the most out of life. Both of them, I think, I know Into the Wild has that same Henry David Thoreau quote about sucking the marrow out of life. And I think they're very much companion movies. Earlier when I said I really liked it when I was a teenager, but I can't remember why, and having rewatched it, I know why. It's because Into the Wild I love.
That's the reason.
And these two movies I think are very, very similar in ethos, and very much touch on something that's like deep inside of me, like this, like, don't get to the end of your life only to find that you've not lived your life,
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, I like that. I'm glad you added that. That was a great movie. Have you seen Into the Wild, Brandon? Okay, it's based on a true story.
Alexander McCandless.
I'd recommend it. It's another just snapshot into a youthful psyche, and this one being based on a very true, real event in person. Yeah, I'd recommend it. This movie's rated PG. Would you guys change the rating? And if so, what would you change it?
I think it should be at least PG-13, only because there are parents who don't follow what PG is, which is watch it with your kids. And with PG-13, they'll be a little more cautious. But I do think that this is a movie for teenage era and should be watched with your parent so that you can talk about the themes in it. Because as Brandon pointed out, like one of the major themes is defy parental authority, and that requires an asterisk.
Yeah, I agree with that. All that.
Yeah, I would say PG-13 for me, most specifically because of the suicide
and the boobies.
Again, maybe you watched a different version. Maybe like mine was just flash and then move on. Like,
no,
I don't remember it dwelling on that.
I'm fairly confident we watched the exact same version.
Okay. Maybe I looked away when it happened.
It spends a little more time on it than I expected, and then I remembered from high school. So
okay.
It's something that I know that any of my children who typically I could show a PG movie with barely paying attention to, that would be a scandalous moment for them.
Absolutely. I'm not for nudity and stuff, but I guess maybe I didn't watch that full scene fully. Maybe I was distracted. So, anyways, yeah, PG-13 would be my vote.
Yeah.
All right, 1989. Has this movie aged well? 36 years old.
When does it take place?
1950s.
Yeah.
I believe it's 54, if I'm not mistaken.
There's always an advantage in doing a period piece, because it'll age better because you're trying to honor a specific era rather than like trying to capture your moment. But also because there's no special effects, whether practical or visual, needed for this movie to work. I think it's aged really well. And I also think that the way it's climbed in the top 250 over time is evidence that it's aged quite well.
Yeah, agreed. I think that in some senses, the point about it climbing in the recent years is some people, there's a return in some ways for I don't want to say true cinema,
mm-hmm.
Pure cinema where it's very dialogue heavy,
mm-hmm.
and kind of points to the uncomplicated nature of life without social. One of the things I love so much about this movie was like the kid, they were just having fun. Like they're just like sitting around all together. Like they're always together. The boys, they're always having fun doing something together. When they were in a room, people weren't on their, they weren't on phones,
right?
Weren't on screens.
Yeah.
There
weren't even allowed to have radio. Yeah.
I mean, they made some mistakes together for sure, but it was, I think some people, long for that type of a thing, and so I think it's aged well in a different way. Yeah.
No, that's a great point that I hadn't caught. When I think that I know that with the next generation, there's already like a nostalgia for a time they didn't experience before screens, and there's very intentional movement by the next generation to have social events where screens are not required or even prohibited. We've gotten worse about living in the moment, which is what the whole movie's about, right?
Agreed.
Seize the day.
I go to many concerts, and I'll take a snapshot every now and then. Like I'll take a quick picture of just to freeze frame the moment. But like, I get so bothered by when, like, say the final band's getting ready to go on, and you just see this sea of phones with the recording screen hitting. I hate that. I hate it. It's just like, I get why they're doing it, and I'm not mad at their motivation. Like, yeah, of course, like you're getting ready to see one of your favorite bands. Why wouldn't you want to capture it for the rest of your life, to hold on to it so you can rewatch it? Like, but I feel like I've personally have lost that ability to be in a moment because of that.
Yeah.
I try so hard to be better at that. When like I said, I'll take the quick picture. I went and saw Lindsay and I went to the theater last week and watched an improv show. And granted, we weren't allowed to use our phones. People were still doing it. But like I made sure like my phone was turned off in my pocket. I took a picture of it right before it started, just to like, a little social media post, but just to have that moment of like, these 4 chairs are about to have 2 hours of comedy on them. Like, so for me, that was special. But like, I see so many people that just the whole time they're watching the camera through the show through a screen, and it bothers me.
Yeah. Because necessarily they're thinking about screen composition, which means that they're not enjoying the moment as much.
No.
I think an even more acute example of this, though, is when people film fireworks displays.
Oh gosh,
right?
It's my mom.
Because it's like, I've never really experienced a fireworks display that I was like, holy cow, I've never experienced anything like this. They're all kind of the same.
Yeah, I agree. So, that was my 2 cents on that, but I do need to be better at that. All right. Does this movie need a sequel? 3 more questions. Does this movie need a sequel?
I would love to see what happens to these boys later, and I would love to see what becomes of Mr. Keating. But I have very low expectation of sequels in general, and so I would not like that. I maybe I wouldn't mind a long form retelling of this story.
Okay. A mini series.
Yeah.
Because this is a captured moment of Robin Williams.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want them to touch this. I think this movie hasn't lost any value being that it's 36 years old. I don't think it's worse for that. So I don't think it's at the point where they're like, we need to retell this story.
Mm-hmm.
I think every moment in this movie is pertinent or can be pertinent. So yeah, I don't want them to touch it or redo it or add to it or stuff.
Yeah, I love sequels. I love a good storyline that continues on, that I can continue to engage with, but I wouldn't do it with this. I think it ended just how it needed to end and exactly how the director wanted it to end.
All right, these last two questions kind of go hand in hand. Would this be in your personal top 250? For me, yes, absolutely.
I would have expected before rewatching this my answer to that to be no, because I remember really liking it, but like I haven't seen it in 20 years, so it couldn't have been that impressionable. But now it would definitely be yes. I would say this is in my top 250.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so as well.
Right on.
Now, Jeff, I know for you, would it or wouldn't it be in your top 250 largely depends on your perceived rewatchability of it. And you haven't seen it in over 10 years or so. Or are you adjusting that metric?
No, that's still by default my metric. I don't necessarily like that that's my metric, but like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I'm like going, yeah, like if it's a great film, I'm going to want to come back to it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And some films are not on that, in that caveat. This one, I would watch this one again. I honestly, I'd probably watch it again in a shorter gap of time. I really enjoyed my time with this film. It was funny. It was emotional. It was, again, and I think me being in an academic setting has changed, has also been like, oh wow, because I'm contemplating going back to school to get my education degree to be a teacher. So just like watching a teacher who I think did some profound things, I'm like I would want, maybe not like the way Keating did. I don't want to emulate someone else. I want to be me.
Yeah.
But in that same, like, I want to be a teacher that makes an impact.
Yeah.
And that was also my same motivation when I was in youth ministry and stuff. Like, I want to leave an impact. I want to point the students into a direction that allows them to be bigger and better than what they currently are. And it's like that the movie was inspiring to me. And a teacher that was just like, you know what, he stood by the way he taught, and he walked out of that classroom knowing he made a difference, and that's what mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think being that I've been in a classroom these last 3 years, that changed. It added to this movie for me.
Mm-hmm. Real quick on that, and I'm glad you mentioned it. Something that hit me a lot differently this time than it had in times the last time I saw it was the suicide scene. I knew it was coming, but still watching Red Foreman hold his son, I was surprised because I started crying. Like, it hit me hard, and I did not I knew it was coming. I'd seen it before, and it didn't hit me that hard then. But that scene really affected me.
All right, last question here, guys. Why do you think this movie is on the top 250? What validates its position in this list?
Everything we've talked about for the last 2 hours, and that I could easily talk about it for another 5. I think this movie is so rich in the things that it covers. Yeah,
I agree. I think it's a movie that balances life, humanity, artistic, cinematic moments, and captures it all and presents it very well. I think the one thing that I never thought about was the music. I don't think the soundtrack was anything crazy.
Yeah, it was fine.
But so it wasn't like a Christopher Nolan, like the movie. This movie wasn't driven by the music and stuff. So but it didn't need it.
Right.
So not saying it was missing it, just saying it didn't need it. So it didn't. The soundtrack is. I don't even know if it exists. So, but yeah, no, it's an incredible film.
I think it's inspiring. I think people long for inspiration, and I think that as much as we do conform, and as much as groupthink is a thing, I think we all have that desire in us to not. We have that desire in us to be unique and to stand on my principle and to be a critical thinker. And so I think people watch this and they like that.
I was curious real quick because I know this was original screenplay somewhat based on his own experience. So I was like, well, what else did he do screenplays for? and a lot of these I'm not familiar with, but he co-wrote the screenplay for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
So he also experienced that. That's
what
crazy.
What about Bob?
Okay.
Yeah. Me, Myself, and Irene. But
this dude had some weird experiences.
Most of these I've not heard of. The Gladiator, Medicine Man, 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag. So a lot of these I haven't heard.
Did you say The Gladiator?
The Gladiator, not Gladiator.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, this was a made-for-TV vigilante action film.
Nice. As they should be. So yeah, I think I wouldn't say he's a one-hit wonder in Hollywood, but like nothing else he made has quite lived up to. Yeah,
this movie is very poetic, which is appropriate considering it's a movie about poetry. So,
well, gentlemen, this has been great. Brandon, is there anything you'd like to close out with? Do you have any final words or anything new you'd like to point people towards, or salutations, or?
2 things. One is I do find it. I mean, Robin Williams died of suicide, right?
Yes.
Yes.
2014.
He had just gotten diagnosed with Parkinson's.
He was ill.
And he lost it.
Thought that was pretty intriguing, considering this was one of his biggest screenplays early on, and that it assumed from the movie, like that moment that Puck put on the crown and kind of opened the window and stood there and just kind of felt that, and he had felt as though he had seized the day. He had felt as though he sucked the marrow out of life, at least for what he was able to in that moment, and that he didn't really seem to have any hope that it was going to get any better. So he said, "All right, I'm going to end it." And you saw that moment of clarity when the dad he said, "I feel this way," and then he said, Dad said, "Well, what do you feel?" And he just slowly shut down. He just said nothing, and that was that moment when he realized, like, okay, I think that's that moment when he realized I've accomplished what I'm going to be able to accomplish with regards to. Yeah, it was obviously wrong. I think it was false, but it's just interesting. I wonder if Robin Williams had similar thoughts at that point to choose to end his life, given that he had this diagnosis that was not a great prognosis.
I will say, to add to that, he died in 2014. In 2019, a movie released that he was in. He was the lead actor, called World's Greatest Dad. I watched this film. I don't recommend it. It's not a great, like, it's dark, and it's not in the sense that it's the premise is his son commits suicide, and Robin Williams' character he's an English teacher again, and so he fabricates a suicide letter, and he creates this whole fictional narrative to kind of save his son's image post death. But the son takes his life in the same way that Robin Williams ended up taking his life 5 years later.
5 years earlier.
5 years later.
You said it came out.
This movie came out in 2009.
Oh, I think it's in 2019. It came out posthumously. Was my understanding? Okay,
2009. 2000, and then 5 years later.
I thought so too. But there was a movie that was released posthumously for him. It was called Boulevard. I looked that up. But you're saying this one was 5 years prior. This one was 2009, and it was based around the concept of suicide.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's just a heavy film, knowing how it turns out for him and stuff. So I think suicide was a common. I don't know. I think it was a common topic for him throughout his career.
Yeah,
and so it was.
I think it was something that was a lingering thought throughout his life. I'm glad you pitched Neil's suicide in a different manner than I understood it, Brandon, because for me it was, well, now he's going to set off to military school, and he had said that's 10 years, and he says it's not prison, but to him it is, right? Like, this, when you're what, 18 or 17 or however old he's supposed to be, 10 years is more than half your life at this point. That's effectively forever, right? And I had always, both when I saw it as a teenager, I thought that his suicide was very stupid, and now where I see it more as tragic, I conceived it as he saw no hope. He saw no future. Excuse me. He saw no future. Not that he'd mistakenly assumed he'd sucked the marrow out of life so far, already, but that he didn't see, I got to pull back a line. I know we were supposed to be wrapping up here, but you got my wheels turning here. He reads from Whitman. Me, O life, of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish. What good amid these, O me, O life? Answer, that you are here, that life exists, an identity, that the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be? That's not the part that I meant to read. That's a beautiful piece of poetry, but that's not the part that I meant to read. But there was another one that he quoted that was about, and maybe it wasn't a quote, maybe this was him talking himself, but about the engineering and medicine and law, these are all necessary for life, but poetry is what makes life worth living, is roughly what he had said. And I think that the suicide was less that he felt he'd sucked the marrow out of life, but more the defeatist attitude of, well, now life's not worth living if I can't have acting.
Someone took the marrow from him, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's fair, but I think he died proud. I think he died proud that he sucked the marrow that he was able to.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big theme toward with the whole play thing in general.
Yeah.
Was like, and what Keating was really like. I don't think he would have done any of that had that quote in the Dead Poets Society not been so prevalent. And so I think that, and I think that's what that moment was about when he stood with his shirt off in front of that window with the crown on. I mean, that somebody who's in that deep of a depression, of a mental health depression, that doesn't, he was maybe experiencing oppression and such, but this was not a mental health crisis. This was not a mental health crisis. I don't believe this kid had mental health issues. I think generally he was a pretty optimistic, pretty happy, kid. Obviously had some of the depression with the dad, but I think the way that they posed him, the way that they showed that towards the end of the movie with him standing there was something about this finality in the sense that I with the ability that I could, I sucked the marrow out of the life that I feel like I have, and my dad kind of ended life for me by who he is and what he's chosen. Therefore, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of both.
No, I'm glad you provided that additional, your additional insight made the scene more rich for me. So thank you.
No, that's good.
All right, gentlemen. Hey, it's been wonderful. It's been good. It's time to go to bed. Before we end, I want to say our next episode we're going to continue with the second only Robin Williams film on the IMDb Top 250. That is Good Will Hunting. We may or may not have a guest for this. We're trying to get one. But Good Will Hunting, Matt Damon, Good Will Hunting, Robin Williams.
Ben Affleck.
Talking about it. Ben Affleck. The duck from the insurance company. So
Ben Affleck.
Excited about this, and I think we're going to just continue some really big conversations with that. So, Brandon, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll have you back on again in the new year. But gentlemen, that's it, and we'll talk to you guys in a couple weeks.
Adieu.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did.
If you found value in what we discussed today, please consider leaving us a rating and review. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
If you have any feedback or suggestions, we would love to hear from you.
That's right. Tell us why we're wrong.
If you want even more content and ways to engage with us and each other, check out our Patreon page.
By supporting us there, you'll get access to exclusive bonus content and help us continue to create high-quality episodes, as well as help pay for our future plans. Links to our social media, merchandise, and Patreon are in the show notes.